Okay, I think we can start. So let's not wait for everyone. Let me share my screen. So today we'll be starting with Jira. So first of all, we'll try to create a free account because Jira offers 30 days free trial, and then we'll go and see how to create epics, how to create stories, how to create tasks, how to create subtasks, and how to see all of them in the Kanban board. So first of all, if you search Jira on your Google itself, you will be redirected through here. You can just click on free. You can click on here like Jira issues and projects. And for me, as I have already done my login via Google, so I already have it here. But then for you guys, you will see as a Google login. So once you see that Google login, you can click on that Google login and it will redirect you to this. Okay. So as you can see, this is my space where it has redirected me to. And what you can do is you can create a space. When we say create a space, we are creating a team. Let's say I am in the testing team or I'm in the development team or DevOps team. I can just use any of the template and create it for my team. So if I just do software development, you can see, you might have already heard about, we have something called as Kanban board, Scrum board, and all of those. So we can just select one of the template. As soon as you select one of the template, it will give you an understanding of what everything is. So this is where we are creating our own team. When I say I'm creating my own team, it's like, let's say I'm working in a enterprise where a project comes to us and we need to build websites from them, and we need to work in sprints, we need to work together, we need to work on different bugs, different tasks. So I'll explain all of this, what are the different work types which are listed here one by one as we go along with the Jira. But here we are just actually creating a team so that we can assign tickets to each other and work in that. So I'll just click on use template. And you can see, you can select anything in here. You can name your team. So let's say, I'll say website dev team. It can be team managed, it can be managed at a company level where only administrator can manage. Then you have access, like it's open to anyone or limited or private. So based on that, I can give access in my team. So let's say you have different departments in your organization. So there is finance department, there is development department, data engineers department, data analytics department. So each team can have their own Scrum, can have their own Jira board. And this is where you can keep it open or you can keep it limited to the people who can only view this. So let me click on next. So you can bring your team along. So anyone who wants me to add it to my team, do you have your email address or something? I can just add it. Otherwise I'll just name it something as John who works in my team, or I can just skip it for now. Okay. As you can see, as soon as I created that board, now it's available as a website dev team, and all the tickets and everything which I want to track can be available in this website dev team. So just to show around here what's happening and how everything works, let me just pull up my notepad plus plus. So when we start a new project, we work in Jira boards. For example, mm, website development, or it can be different for different clients. So when I say it can be different for different clients, let's say, uh, let me just type it. Let's say my company's name is, what should I name? AI Genius something. And then a company like Netflix comes to me and they'll be like, okay, what we want is, can you develop an automation for us which will do this thing? So what I can do is, I can create a board which is specific to Netflix, and all of the task and everything which we will do would be tracked via this board. So in the similar way, how we have created here for website dev team, we can create a Netflix board, and all of the task and everything will be tracked via there. Now if I go here, so we can create a Netflix book. In the similar way, let's say some other client comes to me. So for example, what I'll just use Apple, we can create a Apple board, and all of the task and everything will be done via Apple board. So this is where the bifurcation is very important. So as you can see, we can have multiple people working under one board. Let me just open something so that I can draw. Yeah. So at the top, you have your boards, and let's say this is your Netflix board. I'll just type it as N. You will have multiple people working on this. So there will be a data analytics team. Sorry, I'm drawing up with my mouse, so my writing can be pretty bad. There can be a data analytics team, there can be engineering team, there can be, uh, let's say, data engineers team. So multiple people from this, what I would say, uh, profile will be working under your Netflix account, and in there you will create few things. The first one which you create is Epic. I'll explain what is Epic, what is story and everything, and then under Epic you have multiple things. So one is called as story, another one is called as task, and then you have bugs. And in task you can do subtask. So this is just a tree structure which you can see, we can, and the same can be followed for other client. So why is it important to create different boards? Because in that we can keep all the task and everything done for Netflix as a client separate, and we can create the similar structure for Apple, and we can actually track it. So now let me go into Jira and show you guys around. So as you can see, we are under our space called as website dev team. So let's say this is some task which is for Netflix. Here you have multiple tabs. So first is summary. Here you can actually get a ready-made dashboard that who created which task, who is working on that, when it is due, have everything been done, how many epics have been created, task, bug, story, subtask, and priority wise also you can define it. So as we create some epics, tasks, and buzz, we will see this dashboard. Can you implement a dark mode feature for this website? And you did it. Available here in the form of Gantt chart. I'll show this again once we create epics. And this is few things which you can track. So I think it would be good once we create something. So this should be your default view, and whichever tasks are assigned to you or anything, it should be in for you section. So here you will be able to find whatever task is assigned to you, and you will be able to work on them. First, now let's start with creating. So if I just click on create, let me just do this full screen. Yeah. So as we hit on new, first is space. So I can switch between different clients. So let's say I give you the example of Netflix and Apple. So if you're creating it for Netflix, you can have the space selected as Netflix. If you're creating it for Apple, you can have the space selected as Apple. Which is website dev team. So we'll work on doing that for now. Now, the first which we are trying to learn, what is a epic. So let's me just go into here again and let me write it. So first we are trying to learn what is a epic. So first of all, epic is the first thing which comes in the hierarchy out of story, task, bud, and sub. And what is the purpose of epic? So if I am to write here, let me just go to new one, zoom in a bit, and do this as epic and purpose. So purpose of the epic is to track a large feature or high level business objective that spans multiple sprints or months. When we say sprints means you're trying to release something in batches. So for example, a client comes to you, they're like, we want to develop an app like phone pay. So what you will do is you will work in sprint. So you'll be like, okay, the first most important part is authentication, so I'll complete authentication in 1 month. Then the next part is front end, then I'll complete the front end in next 2 months. That is what we call sprints when you're working in Scrum or Agile. So this is the purpose of epic and how to write the epic, right? Because there are certain rules how you should write your epic or anything to assign it to someone. So I'll just write here key writing focus, and the key writing focus will be broad goal, business value, and scope. So this is how a epic should be written. Now, instead of giving you just theoretical knowledge, let me go to this and we'll try to create a epic. So whenever we try to create a epic, we first need to select the space, the work type, as we are trying to create an epic. The status should be in to do because it's not been assigned. So let's say, uh, can anyone say hi in the chat so that I can use your name to give the example other than Swado? Can anyone say hi in the chat, please? Okay, if no one, I'll just consider myself. So let's say this epic is been assigned to me, Nitish. I can do it in progress once it's assigned to me, and then I can change the status to done once I have completed that task. So we'll keep it in to do. So the first and foremost thing which we need to focus is summary. Oh, finally. Uh, Bishwajit said yes. So, yeah, hi. So, let's say, Bishwajit, I'm creating this ticket for you. So, I'll just show what to write and then I'll assign it to you so that you can start on working this. So, this is how it works. So, in the summary, your summary should be very high level. So, let's take an example that implement dark mode for mobile app. So this is like our high level summary which we have. Then in the description, you should be focusing on three things. So here in the description, you should have a broader goal, you should have a business value and the scope of it. So if I go here, the description could be something like this: Epic represents the full implementation of a dark mode theme across the iOS and Android applications. The goal is to improve user experience, site conditions, and reduce eye strain, aligning with market best practices. This should cover all primary screens and settings. So this is how your description should be. So if you can see, I started with a broader name. That the broader name is implement a dark mode theme, and then what I am doing is next scope and the business value. So the scope here is iOS and Android. I need to specify iOS and Android because the front person, let's say who we have taken as our front person. Yeah. So let's say Bishwajit is working on this. He doesn't know that I want it across Android as well. So if I just use iOS, he'll just build it for iOS and he won't build it for Android. So that's why the scope is pretty important here. You need to always specify the scope. So as you can see, I started with broader, that the full implementation of a dark theme, and then I'm doing across iOS and Android application. And what is the goal? The goal is to improve the user experience in blue light. So this is the business value which we are saying. Yeah, the goal is to improve user experience in low light and reduce eye strain with practices, and this should cover all primary screens and settings. So we have included all of those 3 points while writing our epic, what I showed. So, okay, I think I was disconnected for a second. But as you can see, the key writing focus was broad goal, business value, and scope, and we have done that. Once you do that, you can assign this epic to anyone. So let's say in your team, currently I have only me, but let's say Bishwajit or anyone else is there. I can add them and I can assign that to him. Currently, I'll just assign this to me. Then there are labels. So this is not useful for now. So we'll leave it blank. You can also assign it a due date, that I want this to be done by 31st of March. You can assign it a start date, it can be today's date, it can be tomorrow's date. So why do they give the flexibility of start date? Let's say you are just creating the ticket, but you want that to start in after 7 days and then finish up next month or something like that. So that's where you have the liberty to do the start date. And if you want to browse and attach any document, you can do that, and you can just click on create. As you can see, it says created an epic WD1. Why is done WD1? It's website dev team, so it's just done the short form. So whatever you write, it will do the short form of that, and it will uh, create a ticket. So here, this is the view which the user sees. So as clearly you can see, implement dark mode for mobile app. This is the description. This will go into the detail later, what are child work items, leak work items. But here you can see the history of whatever was commented, who created this, has anyone worked on this, and he can create a work log. So I can comment on this, or I can just ask, like, let's say I'm Bishwajit and Nitish is working on this. I can say that Bishwajit can come here and ask Nitish, where are we with this task? The due date is 31st of March. Can you give me an update? And he can just give you an update in here. Then you have one more thing. So if I now again go to our space, which is the board, here in the timeline session, you can see that by default it's written work sprints, and this is our epic, and it will start on 1st of March and end on 31st of March. So as we go along and create more tickets, that's where it will have more and more granularity, and we can actually track our entire project in here. So you don't need to go to, let's say, Microsoft projects and create a different chart there, but you can just actually do it in here. Then if you go to summary, you can see it has populated the thing which we, so it created one created in last 7 days, one updated in last 7 days, then recent activity, Nitish created this and it is under to do. We created an epic and it's a medium priority. We can change the priority as well as we go along, and assign is Nitish. So team workload can also be designed. So for example, who is not working, and you can assign them the tickets. So this was regarding Epic. Now let's try to look at our next thing, which is the story. So again, let me write few lines about story, and then we'll actually go ahead and create a story. So now we have done the epic. The next thing is story. So a story actually describes a feature or anything from the perspective of end users. So I'll just write it as describes a feature from the perspective of the end user. They are typically written using the as a user role. I want, and in here goal, so that from the perspective of the end user, and they're typically written like, as a user I want this so that this happens. So this is how you write a story. Now let's try to go ahead and create a story in here. So in the work type, I will select story, and as soon as I click on story, the template gets updated. Again in the summary, uh, now here I said that we want to create it from the perspective of a end user. So let's take the example of the same feature which we are trying to launch. So here we'll write mode toggle in the settings menu, so I can switch the theme. So this is what your summary would be for your story. We are not able to see your screen not visible. Let me try to share again. Is it visible now? Okay. Okay, I'm not sure where you missed from, but let me go again then. So, story, when we are writing a story, we a feature from the perspective of a end user. So, the typical writing style or the template of a story is as a user, that this. So, this is how you write a story. Then I just went into Jira, and in the summary, I wrote, and in the summary, I wrote that as a user, I want a dark mode toggle in the settings menu so that I can switch the theme. So this is what I have written, and in the description, what we will write is acceptance criteria. So every time you write a story, it should have a acceptance criteria. So let me just do it in points. So the first acceptance criteria will be the toggle must be clearly visible on the main settings screen. The next acceptance criteria would be tapping the toggle immediately switches the app's theme to dark mode. And the third criteria would be the app remembers my preferred theme on next launch. Oh, are you guys still not able to see my screen? Can others reply if you are able to see my screen? Okay, okay, it's visible. So I think it just need a refresh. So as you can see in the story, we write it from the perspective of an end user, and in the description, we write the acceptance criteria. So the summary is, as a user, I want a dark mode toggle in the settings menu so that I can switch the theme. And in acceptance criteria, you try to write, because a lot of times few things are missed and no one remembers it on top of their head. So what I have done is, the toggle must be clearly visible on the main setting screen. So this is like a checklist, I would say, for the person who is trying to implement this. Then the next is tapping the toggle to dark mode, and the app remembers my preferred theme on the next launch. So this is very important, because a lot of times you don't want your app that it should have a feature of dark mode, but as soon as you log in again, it doesn't show your default dark mode, right? So that's why writing the acceptance criteria is pretty much important. Once you have done that, you can assign it to anyone or label it. Currently we don't want to label it. You can select a start date. So let's say I want this to start from tomorrow, which is Monday, and I want to keep it as it is. I can upload anything if I want to, or clip it. So I'll just do a create. As soon as I create, go to, now if I go here in summary section, you can see today Nitish created this. There are two items. They are medium priority. Distribution is 50% of them is unassigned, one of them is work distributed. So in this way, you can see the clear breakdown. Then here, so here you can see we have only our epic, not the story, because stories are not visible in here. But if you go into the summary, you will be able to see, or if you go into website dev team, you will be able to see it. Now let's implement the third thing, which is a task. So currently we are just going on the flow, as I showed you that epic story, task, subtask, and each one of them one by one. And after that, I'll show you like how to create sprints around it and how actually people work in there. So now I'll select a task as a work type, and in the task, how to write a task. So let's go here and let's do it as task. So a task is a catch all issue type for work that doesn't directly deliver value but is for the project. So if I am to give an example here, it can be research, setup, documentation, anything, right? Now let's try to create a task in here. So a task can be research and a dark mode color palette. So as we are building our dark mode, I want someone to go ahead and this is their summary. Now in description, I'll write it a detailed breakdown. So evaluate three potential color palettes for the new dark PSSA based on accessibility standards and guidelines. Deliverable is a final approved palette with hex codes. So when I say hex codes, those are like the color codes which we see, like 251 is for green, blah blah blah. So those are the ones which are called as hex codes for primary, secondary, and colors. So this is how we have written that all the other things which you want and create it. Once you create, you can view it here. As you can see, it's like evaluate three potential colors. It's in to do, so it's assigned to me whenever I start it in progress, and that's where I can start working on this. And once I'm done, I can create like do the task as done, and it will be done. Now here you can see, as I change it to in progress, it's saying the status overview as Nitish is working on two-third of the work items and one of them is unassigned. So who can actually track who, how, where your team is working on which sprint, which task, and everything. Now let's try to create something called as a bug. So bug is where you saw something is wrong and now you're reporting it from the point of end user. So if I go here and write bug, so a bug is a defect or error in the software. It should contain all the necessary info for a to reproduce and fix the problem. So a lot of times what happens is when people are raising bugs, they forget to include the steps of how to reproduce it. So whenever you are actually doing a bug, you want that you should have a steps how to reproduce it. So someone will be like, oh, as soon as I log into this software or this thing, I'm not able to see this whatever you are claiming it, right? But then he should actually give me a screen recording, or he should actually told me how we went ahead and found that, because that's where I'll be able to go and check if it actually is a bug, or if it's like a system issue that he has not done some system or anything like that. So let's try to create a bug. So I have selected the work type as bug. Now let's use example. Login button is unresponsive on Chrome when using an incorrect password. So a lot of times what happens, someone is trying to log in and they do not have a button when like there is an incorrect password or something like that. So that is your like a high level summary. Now the description will have steps to reproduce, so that someone from the developer team or any team can know how you're getting that error. So you will write a detailed step like navigate to the login page on Google Chrome. So you need to actually tell which browser are you using, because a lot of times some browser just blocks it. So as you can see, I have Chrome here, I have Brave browser here, I have Comet browser here. So you need to specify which browser you are actually using. Then the next step would be enter any valid email address. Third step would be enter an incorrect password. Fourth step would be log in, like actually click on the login button. So click on the login button. Then the fifth would be not fifth, but I would rather say it as expected result when I do that is an error message saying invalid email or password, but the actual result is no error message appears and the button appears visually stuck. Console log show a 500 error on the API login endpoint. This you don't have to even give, but if you're like a technical person who is trying to do it, you can actually give this also what the console log shows. When we say the console log shows a 500 error API endpoint, is you click here and you click on inspect. So as soon as you right click on any of your browser and click on inspect, you have this console here, and it actually tells you where something error is happening or why some elements of your web page are not loading. So someone who is developer or something can actually see what's happening behind the scenes, but if you don't want, you can just keep it like that. So once this is done, uh, you can, if you want, you can highlight this. And the best way to do a bug is you can actually provide screenshots of what, where, and how, what error is happening, so that the end user can visualize it. Again, let's assign it to me. Now labels, due date, let's do it as this. Start date, let's do it at 11, and let's do a create. So once we do a create, We have got it in here. Let me just try to refresh it. You can see we have total 4 work items, 3 are to do, 1 it is in progress, epic, task, bug and story, no subtask and team workload. I can go to the backlog and see how many things we have in here. So we have story. So there are symbols for story. The symbol is like a bookmark. Task has a bookmark. Task has a symbol of like this checkbox, and then bug has like this bug, which is like a spider. Now you can go in here, and if I'm just able to go click on this. So this is one of the task, which is research and select a dark color palette mode. But let's say there are various people working on it, and I want to divide this into subtask or something like that. What you can do is just click on act subtask, and it will be under that task. And you also have like this AI helping you here. So I'll just use one of the suggestion. Yeah. And as you can see, it just given me whatever summary and description should be for a subtask. But again, you need to be specific. For me, I'm just doing it for example. So identify and document SSLE requirements for dark mode, research and summarize the standards relevant to color contrast and reliability. Create. So this is where, let's say you want your task, which is very big, to be divided into 5 different subtasks. So as you can see, we have got one subtask. You can change the priority also if you want, or you can keep it blank. And you can have multiple subtasks here and assign it to multiple people. So as soon as all of these subtasks are completed, your task is completed. And it shows here 0%. But let's say you change it from to do to done, it will show here as 100%. So this way you can track your subtask inside a task and then say that my actual task is done. So this is one way of creating subtask under your task. Now let me show around in spaces. Let me go here. Let me go into the timeline, and in timeline you can create here. Okay. So you have one epic and everything can be tracked under that epic. So your epic is implement a dark mode for a mobile app, and you can have task below it. So for example, if I go to one of the task, so let me just go to backlog, and this is our task. Go to my task. And here you have an option of add a epic. So you can say that this task is under that epic, and once this task is done, something will be completed. So if I click on add an epic, I get option of one epic, but you can have multiple epics there. The use case of having a epic and then task under it is, let me just go here again and go into the timeline. Once you click on this drop down, you will be able to see what your other task is. Sorry, this task is. So let me just actually do this under to do and refresh this one. Here, here you can clearly see that this epic contains this subtask, sorry, this task. And you can see that if it's completed, it's fine. You can also have that like start date and end date for that. So let me give a start date that this is gonna start from Wednesday, and let me refresh this. So here you can see that this epic is going to be finished on March 31st. It contains of this task. You can have story, you can have whatever you want in here. You can do in progress or whatever. You can select your epic, so there can be multiple epics because this is just one feature, like implement a dark mode. There can be another feature called as implement the authentication purpose. There can be another one called as implement the front end. So based on that there will be multiple tasks, and then you can work in teams to get it over the board. Then one more thing which we have is how to link certain items. So what happens is, a lot of times, let's say I'm working on research and selecting a dark mode, but then this someone has just what I would say is working on something which is blocked by that. So my task is blocked by someone is working on something. So you can have this link word items, and you can select here that my task, which is research and select a dark color mode, is blocked by or is relates to. So I can say that my task relates to this epic, or my task relate to this another task or something like that, so that it will give a visibility for someone who is actually here and looking at why did Nitish did not complete it by 20th of March. Because you can say that my task was blocked by this ticket who, let's say, Suraj is working on. So Suraj is working on something, and because of him my task is blocked, but then it gives clear visibility of someone, and then you're not like going into teams and chatting with your team, what happened, why is this task not done. So it helps to link your Jira tickets with one another as well, based on what status. So either my ticket is blocked by someone else, or I am blocking someone else's work. So you can say that my research and select a dark mode color palette ticket blocks this ticket, where which is like mm, implementing dark mode basically. So unless and until I have researched something, no one can implement it. So the front person who is going to implement or write the code, he needs the dark mode. So he doesn't have it, and that's why my thing is blocking him. Okay. Does anyone has any question until now? I've been speaking from past 50 minutes, so just asking. Anyone in the chat? Yes, no? Okay. So this is what ticket, what about story points thing. Yeah. So I can explain about that as well. So if I just see estimate. So the story point estimate is based on how difficult your task is. So a lot of times what happens is, just go here and write something. Uh, let's say you are working on having Google authentication in your app. So this is what you're working on, having a Google authentication in your app, and someone has been assigned as a developer to write the code for it and implement it. And someone has been assigned like do the UX, or I would say UI UX for that. Now, internally, what happens is there is a scrum master, a business analyst, depending upon how your organization is structured. They will schedule a meeting. So, in the meeting, they'll have, let's say, two tickets, which is this to write the code and implement a Google authentication. We'll just name it as, mm, I'm just naming it as something. Yeah. So, these are like the ticket numbers. for those tasks to be done. And in the meeting, you have your scrum masters, we call them agile masters, you can call them business analyst, and etc. So in the meeting, they'll do the story points for this two task. So sorry, the second one should be this one. So they'll just look at this, look at your story. So WDT3, they'll just go here, search for WDT3, and let's say this is WDT3. They'll see that, oh, he needs to evaluate three potential color palettes, new dark mode. So I think that the story estimate points should be 2. So when we say 2, it's kind of like story points. Mostly they use are between 1 to 5, 1 being the task is easy, 5 being the task will take time and is a bit difficult. So basically, based on this, they give story points. So to write the code and implement a Google authentication, it's not an easy task. He need to write the code, he need to test if it's working, he needs to do a lot of things. So I can give it as a story points. So people who are sitting under this meeting, they look at that ticket and they decide that how much story points it should have. So it's kind of like how much efforts is needed. So if more efforts are needed, it will have a 5 point. To do the UI UX, it's not that much effort needed, so I think it's gonna be 3. So there are, let's say, 4 or 5 people who are in the meeting. They'll do a voting that for this ticket, what do you think should be the story point? Should it be 1, 2, 3, something like that? So in this way, you give story points, and that way you can see that this is a estimate of what you're trying to do. So research and select color palette, I can just do this as story point as 3. And someone who is working, he'll be like, okay, uh, I have to complete this in 10-15 days, and they don't think, as per senior and higher management, that this will take that much of a time. So this is like a efforts estimate. So that was regarding story points. Now this is your, what I would say, board, where you can actually manage all the things. So you have to do in progress and done. So if I just click go to backlog, so this is where I have WT1 sprint 1, plan your sprint, and let's say my sprint is 31st. You can describe your task, or I'll just create a sprint out of this. Oh shit, I think I clicked on the wrong button. Okay, so here you can have all of your tickets however you want it. Sorry for that. So here you can have all of your tickets however you want it, and you can actually visualize them, like what are under to do, what are under in progress, or something like that. You can move your column to the right or left, you can assign it a new column, whatever you want. So this is like a visual representation of how you want your epic or your story to be. So this is where you can have like epic wise sprint or something like that. Sprint is basically, uh, there are 10 tickets, 8 are under two are in progress, one is done. So you can actually visualize it rather than going here and where you don't see any progress, right? because here you can see just like a log of all the tickets, but I actually want to see progress and how everything is progressive, and that's where this board is useful. A lot of times the scrum master and everyone, they uses this board to visualize the project status. And if you want to visualize timeline, you can obviously come here and see on the timeline this bar moves as we go along within the days. You can have the calendar view. So in calendar view, as you can see, this is how everything is designed to be. This task start here, ends there, this task, this start, this start. So depending upon how you do want to do client communication, how everything works, this is your entire summary. Then what else you have in here is you can create multiple spaces, which I already showed. Then in more, you can have something as starred. So basically there is some task which I want to do as star, I can star it. There are certain things like, if I just go to one of the task quickly. So they have got their own AI in here. So you can improve the task. So let's say you didn't have time to write something. That's where you want to do a improved task. You can just do it and it will auto suggest what description it should be. So let's try to do it. It's like improve description, links to Confluence content, summarize comments, suggest highlighter, link similar work items. So it can auto suggest a lot of times because it can read through all of your Jira. So if I do improve description, it will actually come up with this thing. So it's trying to summarize. So as you can see, it has given a summary, context, acceptance criteria, and this. So you can replace, insert. If you want to refine it, you can change the tone, you can do whatever you want. So this is their AI which will help you write your Jiras faster. Then you can also have this link to Confluence. So when I say Confluence, Confluence is like a documentation software. So what happens is a lot of times there are hundreds of documents in a company, and you need to have documentation somewhere that how to create this Jira, how to access certain things. So instead of having multiple Word documents or PDF documents which you share with each other, you can just give Confluence link and Confluence software. So that is like a different software. I'm not sure if they provide free version, but I would have then showed you. But then your Jira is actually linked to Confluence so that someone can actually see it. So you can document anything in there. Then they have got here automation rules as well with the AI, which you can do. So you can set up some automation rules like, once this task is completed, email me on Slack or Teams about this, do that. So use robo agents to trace bugs in Jira. Robo agent is the Jira AI. Use robo agent to create Jira spaces summary page in Confluence. Use robo agent to send Jira space summary to Slack. So basically, some of the epic or something, if I am trying to implement it, I can use that agent to send me on Slack or Teams some messaging and all of those things. So you already have few of the automations here, but you can create it yourself. You can create with robo, you can create it based on rules, and you can use a template as well. When we say template, they provide you automatic template where you just need to drag and drop and create whatever you want. This is not used that much as compared to why Jira is used, but then again, if the organization is big and they really want to focus and look at things, they use it. Okay, does anyone has any questions? I think we have completed all the basics of what is epic, story, task, subtask, and everything. Okay, if no one has any questions, uh, I'll end this stream and do subscribe and like this so that I can bring in more videos. Next time we'll try to get something useful that I'll come up with again. So thank you so much for joining this live stream.